Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Crossover Podcast. My name is David Shynock. It's a pleasure to have you back. It's Monday for you guys. For me, it is Saturday at 11:51 after Worlds is finally over. It feels like it's been a very long month and a half, and I'm more than happy to finally get a normal sleep schedule back. Even though I didn't intend on waking up today to watch finals, I was going to watch the VOD. But I think I'm starting to get a slight cold or something. I don't know. Things just feel stuffy from seasonal allergies and seasonal weather, like nothing COVID related. But yeah, ended up waking up at 8:30 today for like 20 minutes, checked in on the score, got to watch the end of game 2, and then finished out the rest of the series, I think at the end of game 3. So I wanted to sleep a little bit more, see if I can get that in. But with that, I want to dedicate this episode purely to Worlds wrap up, because with the news cycle and everything else going on, I feel like it's going to be pretty much done in the conversation by the time Monday evening ends. So there's a lot to unpack with this Worlds. It had its highs, it had its lows, but the number one thing to say off the bat is massive props to Riot Games for being able to put this on while everything else has been happening around the world. The fact that we could even have this during COVID is nothing short of phenomenal. Like, it's one thing when you look at sports and you see the NFL and you see the NBA and you see the MLB all pretty much holding their leagues as normal, with the exception of the NBA doing the bubble. They're a little bit different because they're domestic. You don't have to worry about talent from many different countries for an extended period of time. I mean, you have players that are international, but most of them at that point are used to living in the United States for an extended period of time because their job's going to hold them there. Worlds has always been like a month and a half, and that's it. But you're flying everybody into one specific area, and that just is kind of a little bit different. And the fact that Riot was able to get everybody together, quarantine for 2 weeks, begin Worlds right away afterwards to try and mitigate some of the time length that they were going to be there away from family during COVID, it deserves all the props in the world. The fact that they could throw a final in a stadium with people there, even at a reduced amount, still hold the World's opening ceremony, still do everything that they planned on well, not that they planned, everything that we come to expect with a World Championship is phenomenal and needs to be recognized. I highly doubt that there's going to be an asterisk by this Worlds, just based on the way that it played out, everything that we saw, all the procedures taken. It didn't feel like there was anything substantially different from a normal World Championship. So while this Worlds might, were there fans in group stage, were there fans at quarters and semis? No. And that sucks. But when you think about back to season 1, the circumstances of, not even season 1, you think back to seasons 2 and 3 as well, the circumstances around how Worlds was being held then were, quite frankly, nothing compared to today's standards. Now, in relativity, were they the same? Sure, you could argue, but I just gotta say it feels like everything, for the most part, was consistent with what we come to expect in terms of the macro level assumptions for a World Championship. Viewership seemed to be good from what I saw from Fion's Twitter. So everything in that regard is good. You expect viewership to be there. As I said at the beginning, the one thing that is going to suck about this world is that it will fade away very quick. You will not see as much supplemental content around Worlds once pretty much today and tomorrow wrap up, because from an American standpoint, we have a major election on Tuesday. So the news cycle, all of social media, everything is going to be dominated by that this entire week. So Worlds had its moment, but Worlds will pass. Internationally, it might have more grounds, but I just think in the COVID era, the news cycle flushes itself out so quick that you just have to appreciate the moment and then understand that this is going to likely fade out of context until next year, because there is a chance that we are still dealing with COVID to the same extent that we are now at this point next year, to which then we will have to compare it to this year, see what we think, see the similarities, the things that we liked, the things that we didn't, and go from there. Now, we've got about 6 minutes of all the formalities out of the way. Great. There are some things that we do need to address with Worlds this year. And because Riot gave it the full Worlds treatment, I want to criticize and praise it in the same way that we would a normal World Championship. I will caveat that, obviously, by saying COVID does impact that, regardless of whether they took all the proper steps to make sure that, nothing else got in the way. Nothing was more impacted by COVID, noticeably, than the opening ceremony. I historically have watched the opening ceremonies live in a bar with a bunch of other people for the first time, and then I continuously watch them over and over and over again. I'll watch reaction videos for them online. I will watch it myself to just appreciate it. Like last year specifically just felt like a moment. The year before that felt like a moment too. This year did not feel that way at all. I think the best way to explain this is Riot released last year the 10 months, 10 minutes video, which basically described the entire process of what it took to put Awakened, Giants, and Phoenix together for a live show all together. It took 10 months. And even then, down to the minute prior to the show going live, they were still worried about things like the case not opening up, like some of the lighting and CGI not working, or holograms specifically because they had net. This year, there were flaws. I mean, the KDA models themselves were off. The Galio felt kind of, I don't know, it felt like, okay, I think Frost put it best where it was the meme of, here's your Elder Drake, and Mom saying, we have Elder Drake at home. Galio was that. It was, you could tell it was not, I don't want to say not the original plan, because it does tie in to the Warriors cinematic from the beginning of the year. So technically, from a theme standpoint, I get it. But it feels lackluster compared to what we had. KDA was supposed to be the next thing. You had Seraphine there, which makes sense, but you couldn't have any of the other groups. Same thing when you had Takeover. It just felt lackluster. And normally, over the last 2 years, in hindsight, because of the series that were played, the opening ceremony tended to outshine the actual series. This is the first year where we can thoroughly say the series outshined the opening ceremony. And while I don't expect that to be an issue going forward, if we are in a COVID era still next year, that's going to be tough. You can't plan on that. So if you're Riot and you're stepping into the meeting in 2 weeks to discuss, Worlds 2021 in China next year, you have to plan on no COVID, because you have to go all out. You'll have you have a contingency plan somewhat, but you can't not assume that we won't have a vaccine based on everything going on. So you kind of have to go all out still. Overall, I don't want to criticize the opening ceremony too much, because I feel like that puts undue treatment on Riot Games for pulling off already what they did, which is phenomenal. But it definitely did feel a little bit lacking compared to prior years, understandably. The next issue to tackle is the home crowd. I am all for competition and competitiveness in an arena. I've gone to many Steeler games before. I've gone to golf tournaments. I've gone to baseball games. I've gone to some basketball games. The home crowd element is there. Like whenever I went to, it was the Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. It's one of the most intense rivalries in all of football. You boo the Ravens when they come out, but that's to be expected. It's your home crowd. You're going to be playing at their home crowd at some point throughout the year. And then generally speaking, in the Super Bowl, everybody gets cheered, great players or not. And even then, I remember when Ray Lewis came on the field, people would still cheer. When Joe Flacco was good back in the day, people would still cheer him to a certain extent. It's not like, I don't know. It felt like if you go to a Pittsburgh and Cincinnati game now and you see Vontaze Burfict anywhere, he's going to get booed, period. It felt weird, not at least during the individual player introductions, to cheer and praise them a little bit and show some sort of sportsmanship. Like, I get booing when the team comes out, or in their case, remaining silent. That's fine. I'm all for that. But it's like there's a certain element of respect that I feel like a crowd should give, and it made me so happy when Damwon won, just knowing that the crowd was going to be silent and that karma was served. Like, there, in my opinion, there is no better feeling if you're an athlete than going into somebody else's home stadium, beating the team, and more importantly, beating the crowd and silencing them. It is a humbling feeling that you just love to have. Like, it's one of those that, like, you wouldn't talk about it publicly. You let others do the public talking for you. But man, does that feel good. Not as good, obviously, as, like, if China were to win a title on their home soil, that's probably going to be the best case scenario. Everybody's going to be happy. That feels joyous. But, like, the sheer, like, cocky smile, that feeling's hard to replicate. Next, the series was, in my opinion, incredibly entertaining. Like, to put that in perspective, the last 2 years we've had 3-0s where China just beats up on Europe in the finals, and it's not even close. And it just, there's moments where you look back and it's like, okay, they might have stood a chance, or at least there were, like, highlight moments. Like, for example, last year it was, what was it? G2 was playing, I think, Pyke and Ryze. In bot lane, they just magically got out of a scenario where they shouldn't have. That was the entire highlight for G2. The entire finals. Like, that, there's nothing you can do to spice up what was a very, very kind of boring series. Like, that's, like I said earlier, when the opening ceremony outshines the actual event, that's whenever it's, you get a little worried. This year, series was phenomenal. Like, other than game 4, which game 4 was just a flat out smash by Damwon, and kind of felt like, okay, proper ending. Damwon has been really good the entire time. Games 1 through 3 were all close. Bin put everybody in a dumpster in game 2, but then dumpstered himself games 1 and 3 and 4. And oh my God, it was just like, it was entertaining to watch. And this is where I hope everybody's ignoring Thorin's baiting on Twitter, because I know he's just doing it for the views, and that's fine. You're free to do whatever you want. But to say that this series wasn't entertaining, and to say that, there were mistakes made, and that's, that's the big problem here, is that Damwon, well, okay, that Suning only won because Dam Won was messing up. Suning only got close because Dam Won was messing up. That's okay. If you want to go by that narrative, since he loves the sports metaphors and everything else, I'll just direct you back to arguably the most impressive golf major win of all time, and that's Tiger Woods winning. Okay, I'll use both of them. Tiger Woods winning the U.S. Open in 2008 on a broken leg, and Tiger Woods winning the 2019 Masters. How did he win the 2019 Masters? He didn't win it. Other people lost it. Like, yeah, you could say the Tiger effect came into play where everybody else choked around him and Francesco Molinari dumps 2 balls in the water on 15 at Augusta. It's like, yeah, but did Tiger technically win it? Like, people just look back and say, oh, Tiger won the major, which I was incredibly happy about. But there's no denying that he just played consistent golf to finish. Like, it was no Charles Schwartzel finish where he birdies 5 of the last 6 holes to win it outright. Like, that is earning it, period. Tiger didn't technically do that. So do you take that away from him because that's how it went out? Do you say that it wasn't entertaining because that's what happened? Like, no, not at all. Like, that's part of sports and esports in general. Like, it's so naive and so dumb to have that take, to be honest. Like, it just is. If we judge everything by the perfect standard of play, we would have no entertainment whatsoever. We'd constantly be nitpicking everything. LCS would never be watched, yet here we are. The reality is, yes, Dam Won played to a lesser quality in games 1 and 2. Sure. That does not take away from the entertainment of the series. And I can't stand the narrative that anything like that would ever take away from it. It's just dumb. It really is. Finally, Worlds going forward to next year. It's going to be in China again, which somewhat given. I mean, I get it. They deserve their chance at a full world championship. I hate the hours, which I get it. It's probably bad for them as well when it's vice versa. But it feels like it's a little bit different now, given that, you know, when Worlds was last in Asia back in 2018, it would have been. In 2018, I was still in college. You know, you have less sense of responsibility to the outside world, so waking up that early or staying up that late isn't really an issue. Going forward into next year, I'm curious to know whether it'll be more the same this year where I still tune in as much, tune in less. It also depends on how the West does. But if there's one thing that I want to see going forward from Riot, it's I want to return back to the element of prestige that comes. And I've harped on this point a lot on this channel. But it definitely felt lackluster, especially during the closing ceremony where you're supposed to get the trophy. It's supposed to be this big deal. And you really reflect on what truly happened. And you reflect on the great plays, great everything that's going on. I don't know if it was because they were in China this year and a Korean team won, but that doesn't make sense because last year FPX was given an incredible amount of time, but also an incredible amount of respect from the closing ceremony, not the analyst desk, but like the actual closing ceremony in the stadium. They were given the proper amount of time. And Jacob Wolf said it best, where he said, I think it was, "What I do mind is Riot's presentation, as it was really lackluster. I understand COVID-19 makes things harder, and made Dam Won's moment from a broadcast perspective less memorable." I agree. Hard. It's next year, I really hope with Worlds that throughout everything, we go back to focusing on the history of League, what it took to get us here, and going forward, you know, how we continue to cement this as something incredible. The theme of this year's Worlds was takeover. And from a viewership point, I get it. We're like League of Legends is right on the precipice of hitting that. But it felt in this campaign there was more promotion for Riot, like Riot taking over the gaming industry, than it was League of Legends esports and the prestige of the event taking over the industry. And I hope next year that's fixed. I get they launched a lot of products this year. But next year, please make sure that to anybody, if anybody from Riot ever sees this, please make sure that we focus more on what this means going forward. You know, I think back specifically to 2018 and the opening ceremony where we flash back all of the moments from previous worlds. And it felt like it was done well. They tried to do that this year with the songs, but it didn't feel the same as it did then. Like when they panned through seasons 1 through 7, you had the blend of the song, but moments within that as well. And it felt perfect. It felt like a good culmination of the past to lead to now and this moment. And you just didn't get that same feeling this year. Not only in the opening ceremony, but throughout everything. So, to wrap all this up in a bow, overall it was a very good Worlds. Like the final series itself was entertaining. Group stage was a little lackluster. There weren't as many upsets, which kind of decreases some of the entertainment value for it. Quarters and semis were both good. The event overall, the fact that it happened is great. But next year, continue to improve. We learned our lessons from COVID. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully, next year we resume right where we left off. But I think this is going to be a really influential step in 2021 to see where do we develop from here, because League has been rising for years and the entertainment value has been increasing. Everything's been going up with it. Can that maintain itself? We'll see. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Be sure to follow the channel, drop a like and a comment. Hit me up on Twitter at @DShynock. Let me know if you got anything you want me to discuss. I am going to record the next episode for Thursday here coming, I believe, tomorrow. I got a friend who I've been playing League with for an extended period of time, and he's become one of my good friends online. So I'm interested to talk to him a little bit, get his thoughts on the gaming industry as a whole, but also, quite a few other things that I want to ask him. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good one. Bye.